Welcome friends to another 40k video. Today we draw on the board is set by Gav Thorpe, where just before the arrival of Horus the Terror during the heresy, Malcador and the Emperor discuss what is to come and play a tactical game against each other with Primarchs as pieces. In the description I've included a list of which board pieces are for which Primarchs, and in the text I've mainly referred to the pieces by the names of their Primarchs, but the list is there if you want to take a look at the end. Malcador entered a room. There were no other doors, and the only furniture were two high-backed chairs facing each other across a circular table. Upon the table was an octagonal board of granite and pale marble beside a light wooden box, and upon the geometric spaces were set 20 playing pieces. He takes a seat opposite Revelation, a representation, a projection of the Emperor. Pieces are placed on the board, and cards in slots before each of them. Malcador chooses a blank piece, which changes into the twins first. The Alpha Legion's twinned Primarchs, a likely indication they both know of Omegon and Alpharius. The Sigillite's top card is the Hydra. The Emperor chooses a piece that becomes the Crow, Corvus-Corax. Then it follows the King of Nothing, the Malcador, Angron, and so on. As more pieces are revealed, they are placed on the board as dictated by the cards. They each have 10 figurines, and it's here Malcador plays the role of War Master and chooses a piece dubbed the Lord of Hearts. Malcador says despite Horus approaching, he has come here for some of the Emperor's insight because he's scared. He does not want to fail his friend, the Emperor. They play on. Malcador picks Lorgar instead of Horus. Revelation picks the Hydra, and with the card it becomes two separate pieces. One is placed with each of the actual players represented on the board. Malcador tries to move Fulgrim away from the Hydra, but a card reveals a flaw in the Fulgrim piece. The diamond there shows a flaw within it. Malcador says he cheats. The Emperor says, or does it seem that I do? Malcador says the cards are attuned to him, that's why they change. The Emperor says perhaps because Malcador only sees them that way, and it's his interpretation that is repetitive. All the game is rigged, and Malcador says he continues to play, as the Emperor has never shown him a victor to the game. It's always ended before that stage. The Emperor says he does not know how to win, challenging him. Malcador chooses Fulgrim and defeats Ferrus. The Iron General's model breaks, and the Emperor says perhaps he'll fix that later. Then the Regent's card was drawn, the Great Tempest. In a flurry of moves, his pieces cut a line through his opponents, separating them into three enclaves. The Chosen, aided by Grand Visions and the King of Nothing, moved pincer-like on the Uncrowned Monarch, while the Blind Darkness pinned the double-edged blade into one corner of the board. Revelation removed the angel from harm's way, while Malcador played Temptation upon it, sliding the card beneath the piece so that it was held in stasis. Some of the Emperor's pieces were surrounded with just one way out. The piece Dorne was held in reserve. Malcador says Revelation never plays that move, so he does. Dorne faces Horus on the board, and the Sigillite turns the next card. It's a Hydra. The twins turned red and joined the War Master, and Malcador says he could move one of the pieces into the place Dorne had been stood in, forcing a capitulation from the Emperor. The Emperor then reset the board to how it was before, and the Sigillite was now forced to play the only move open to him. As Conrad Kurz moves to Vulkan, the next card is revealed, and the Emperor places a fresh Vulkan piece on the board, and Malcador tried to vary his moves, but the Emperor's moves always set the pieces back into position, like their wargaming strategies, maybe possible futures they are both seen or discussed. Revelation would play Malcador to lose, and then reveal he was encircled, and his only option was to attack directly. The Sigillite played his last card, the Lord of Clouds-Mortarion. It was shown as a maggot eating its way out of a heart. Revelation seemed to really consider his last move. Then he saw the Emperor had changed the game, and Malcador saw a hint of sadness for the beat of a heart. And the Emperor says that Malcador is not playing hard enough. As the War Master, perhaps he wants to be sure what he faces and to learn from this game with Malcador. I cannot play like Horus. I do not have his mind, his motivations. So the Emperor gives him motivation, something which I think he does for a lot of people, whether it be looking like somebody to motivate them, or reading their mind and saying what they want to hear or what they need to hear from him in order to do what he requires. The Emperor says that he has used Malcador the Fool for millennia for his own ends, and he has lied to him since the first moment they have met. Everything he has told the Sigillite is a fiction. Malcador knew the Emperor was trying to make him mad, but couldn't help but question his role as counsellor. The Emperor continues pointing out the ruinous powers have never tried to lure Malcador away from the Emperor, because he has nothing to offer. Then the Emperor digs deeper and hurts him further. In my name. Never had 3 words sounded so scornful. You are a master of tax collectors and clerks. No Imperium without you. No Malcador without the Imperium you mean. What justification would there be to ever keep you around without your countless army of bureaucrats to sustain you? Even my remembrancers, poets and pick-takers, contribute more to the Great Crusade than you ever did. Malcador cried at that moment. Then the Emperor says Malcador has failed him because he can't help the master of mankind when he needs to, and the Emperor smashed the player piece of Malcador. Sigillite says he has no hidden ambition. You seek to wound a pride that does not exist, but you think it does, and that is your shame, not mine. It is your pride that will undo us all, not mine. It's great there to see the Sigillite snap back at the Emperor, and the Emperor has treated him so poorly after such long periods of service. And with those jabs, the game continued. Malcador now played without empathy, swift and direct, and Malcador felt he wanted to prove the lie of Revelation's affectation of infallibility, but slowly attacking pieces were in place for the Emperor, all ready to strike. The Emperor says he wins in his next move. The figure in place was Guilliman. Malcador turned a card and said, sacrifice, removing the angel from the board and opening a hole in the Emperor's defences, and the Sigillite had held back a piece for this moment. Horus, dubbed the Lord of Hearts. The Emperor asks him to wait, and it stopped him. I win, croaked Sigillite. But as he returned his attention to the board to place the King of Hearts, there was another piece occupying the space he had to take. The Fool, his own piece on the board. Malcador, the Sigillite, on the board as Malcador the Fool. In ancient days, the Fool would say anything to anyone, in theory at least, Revelation said. He smiled and warmth flooded through Malcador to see the expression, but then both the smile and his moment of hope faded. It was the Fool's task to remind kings and queens that they were mortal and weak and not above any other. In the parlance of a later time, they existed to speak truth to power, to defy authority, and most importantly, puncture tyranny. Malcador choked on his next words, not sure what to say. Even at the instant that he collected his thoughts, a distant ripple flushed through his mind. It stank in his nostrils and brought the thunder of a great storm to his ears. Prickling skin and psychic senses alike, he felt the rift opening, tearing apart reality at the edge of the solar system. A chorus of infernal clarions screeched across his other sense. The War Master has arrived, he said, though he knew his opponent could not fail to know also. He looked up, but the chair opposite was empty. To whom do you speak, Master? The voice of Latdava was like a hammer on a pane of glass, shattering the wall of concentration that Malcador had erected around himself. He glared towards the door, where the functionary stood, fingers making clumps of her white robe. She stared fearfully at him. How long have you been here? Several minutes, Master, the functionary told him. The Astro-Telegraphica Exulter sent me with word that the traitor fleet will breach the warp veil within the hour. And why do you stare at me like that? What have you seen? You, Master, playing the game by yourself. You turn the cards and move the pieces with terrible contortions of the features. She wrung her robe a little more, and her eyes moved to the table. What does it mean? Malcador was not sure, as he followed her gaze, seeing the pieces arranged at the end game, the Lord of Hearts still in his hand. Yet where the Fool had been was now another piece, uniquely golden, shaped as a crown. Beside it lay the last crystal card, its image that of an eagle tearing out the throat of a serpent. And that's when this tale ends. Just 2 things I'd like to go over. It said the Iron General's model breaks, and the Emperor says perhaps he'll fix that later. Is that a hint the Emperor could bring them back? He has the warp knowledge from Moloch, and the bodies are just a matter of science and engineering. On the other part, Revelation reached into the game box, a box Malcador knew to be empty, and placed a fresh anvil piece on the board. The anvil is Vulkan. That's a sign of his perpetual nature, I think. And with those comments, we'll wind down today's video.